I can still hear his scream echoing down the hallway of that office building. It was an animal howl of a man who lost everything in a second. I was hiding behind the HR department door, a 16-year-old with trembling hands, clutching my phone with all those recordings. The man I called father was dragged away by 2 security guards, looking directly at me with hatred I'd never seen before. "You'll pay for this, kid." But he had already made me pay for too many things throughout my life. My name is Lucas. I'm 19 now. I'm sitting in this empty park because I need to tell this story. It's not easy to talk about even after all this time. People see just a normal guy, maybe a little too quiet, with some scars that aren't all visible. Nobody knows what happened. Nobody knows what I did. When you hear about a son destroying his own father's career, exposing his secrets to the entire company where he worked, what do you think? That I'm a traitor, an ingrate, a manipulative liar who wanted to harm his own family? That's what most people think. Even my mom thought so at first. But there's a reason I spent 6 months in a juvenile rehabilitation center. Not for what I did to my father, but for what happened afterward, for what he did to me and what I did to myself. I was labeled the troubled kid, the rebellious teenager who made up horrible stories about his hardworking father, respected by everyone. Robert Miller, sales manager, 15 years at the same company, family man. Nobody wanted to believe the truth until they had no choice. I'm not here to justify myself or ask for forgiveness. I just want someone to understand. If you're really paying attention to me, if you're truly following my story and not just listening without feeling anything, please like this video right now, subscribe to Traumatic Accounts, hit the notification bell, and comment where you're watching from. I need to know I'm not talking to myself, that there's someone on the other side willing to suspend judgment until they hear everything. Because what I'm going to tell you isn't what it seems at first glance. It never is. You think you know stories of abuse, of family violence, think you've heard it all? But what happened inside that house on Maple Street, number 47, for 8 years straight was something nobody could imagine, looking at my father in his suit and tie with his perfect smile in family photos. The worst wasn't the blows, wasn't the bruises I hid with long-sleeve shirts even in summer. It was something else. Something I kept hidden for years until I couldn't take it anymore. And when I finally spoke up, nobody wanted to listen. So I made them listen. It wasn't always like this. I have memories of a normal life until I was 8. We lived in Charleston, me, my mom Claire, and my father Robert. He worked at a small company back then. He spent more time at home. I remember him teaching me to ride a bike in the park near our house, weekend trips to the beach, Sundays watching football. My mom smiled a lot back then. Our house was simple but comfortable. We had a normal routine: school, work, family dinners. My dad wasn't very affectionate, but he wasn't aggressive either. Sometimes he got impatient when I made a mess or didn't obey right away, but nothing beyond normal. I was a happy kid with friends at school, good grades, dreaming of becoming a football player or astronaut like any boy. Everything changed when he got a job offer in Chicago with a much higher salary and a management position. I remember his excitement talking about how our life would improve, how we'd have more comfort, how I could study at the best schools. My mom didn't want to go. She had all her family in Charleston, her teaching job, her friends, but she gave in, as she always did when it came to his plans. We moved when I was 8.5 to a bigger apartment in an upscale area of the city, private school for me, new clothes, new furniture, new car. My mom got a job at a nearby school, but she earned much less than before proportionally. The power balance at home shifted completely. It was gradual. First came the small criticisms almost disguised as jokes. "This boy's getting too soft, Claire. He'll turn out..." "Lucas, stop crying over every little thing. Men don't cry." Then the impatience increased, yelling when I took too long with homework, increasingly severe punishments for small mistakes. At 9, I received my first slap in the face. It happened when I accidentally spilled a glass of soda on his laptop. It wasn't on purpose. I tripped on the living room rug, but he didn't care. The slap came so fast I didn't see it coming. I just felt the sting on my cheek and heard my mom yelling at him for the first and only time. "Robert, don't you touch the boy." He looked at her in a way I'll never forget. cold, calculating. Would you rather raise a man or a loser? Because I'm not supporting a deadbeat in this house. That night I heard them arguing in their room. The next day, my mom had a black eye. She said she hit the edge of the door during the night. That was the first of many excuses she would make up in the years to come. From there, everything got worse quickly. My dad started drinking more. The new job had more pressure, more responsibilities. He came home stressed and anything became a reason to explode. A low grade at school, an untidy room, noise during the football games he watched, even a look he interpreted as defiant. By 10, I learned to anticipate the signs. The way he loosened his tie when arriving, the sound of the whiskey bottle being opened, the tone of voice when calling my name. I developed a sixth sense for knowing when it was better to disappear, stay quiet in my room, pretend I was sleeping. My mom tried to intervene sometimes, but she was afraid too. Robert was a different man when drinking. He called her incompetent, said she couldn't even raise a son properly, humiliated her in front of visitors, criticizing the food, her clothes, the way she talked. Gradually, she faded away. The cheerful woman I knew in Charleston disappeared, giving way to a shadow that walked along the walls of the house trying not to make noise. When I turned 12, my dad received another promotion, senior manager, even higher salary. He celebrated with work friends. Came home at 3 a.m. I had gotten a C+ in math that day. It wasn't a bad grade, but not up to his standards. I woke up with him yanking my blanket off, yelling about the grade, said I was wasting the money he spent on private school, called me stupid, useless. Then came the first punch to my stomach, strong enough to leave me breathless. Next time you embarrass me with grades like this, it'll be worse. My mom came into the room when she heard me crying. He left, pushing her away, saying he would sleep on the couch because he couldn't stand us anymore. The next day, during breakfast, he acted as if nothing had happened. That was the pattern. The violence always came at night, almost always related to drinking, and in the morning it was as if it had been a nightmare, except for the marks on my body and the terror I felt every time I heard the key turning in the door. At 13, I tried to ask for help for the first time. I told the school counselor that my dad beat me. She called my parents for a meeting. My father cried in front of her, said he was going through a difficult time at work, that he had drinking problems, but was seeking help, that he loved me more than anything, promised he would never touch me again. That night, he broke my arm. To teach you not to make up lies about your father. We went to the hospital. He said I had fallen down the building stairs playing tag with friends. He looked into my eyes while talking to the doctor, daring me to contradict him. I remained silent. I tried to run away from home twice that year. The first time, the police found me at the bus station trying to buy a ticket to Charleston. The second time, I hid at a school friend's house for 3 days until his parents discovered and called home. After that, my dad cut off my allowance, took my phone, forbade me from going out with friends. I was practically under house arrest. School was my only refuge, but even there I was afraid to talk to anyone, to try to ask for help again. My mom started taking antidepressants. She tried to protect me sometimes, putting herself between us when he came at me, but she ended up getting hit too. Other times, she simply didn't react as if she were numb. I don't blame her. She was his victim too. At 14, I realized nobody was going to help us, that we were alone in this. And that's when I started thinking about how to get out of that situation on my own. My dad was two people. At work, he was Robert Miller, exemplary manager, mentor to newcomers, everyone's friend. At home, he was a monster. I didn't understand how nobody noticed, how he managed to fool so many people. The worst moments were when he had visitors at home, colleagues from work, his boss, important clients. Suddenly, we were the perfect family. He'd mess up my hair, make jokes, proudly talk about my grades, which were never good enough when we were alone. My mom would smile an empty smile while serving drinks and snacks. I had to participate in the farce. Tell them about your science project, son. Tell Dr. Phillips how you won that swimming medal. And I would tell, smile, pretend, because I knew what would happen if I ruined his image. Once at 15, I almost broke character. His boss, Mr. Jacobs, was at our house for dinner. My dad was bragging about how he supported me in all my interests and hobbies. Lucas has talent for music. We bought him a guitar last year, didn't we, son? It was a lie. I had never played guitar in my life. He would never spend money on that. Actually, I started to say. His look froze me. His hand under the table squeezed my thigh so hard it left bruises. Actually, I'm still learning, I completed. But I really like it. Thank you, Dad. That night, after everyone left, he dragged me to the bathroom, turned on the shower to muffle the sound, and beat me with his belt until I couldn't stand anymore. If you embarrass me again in front of my boss, I'll break every finger on your hand, understand? That's when I started to understand how important his professional image was to him. More than anything, that job was his pride, his identity. He could be a monster at home, but nobody could ever know about it. I also realized the abuse was getting worse. Now he looked for places where the marks wouldn't be visible. Used the belt buckle on my back, stomach, legs, never on my face again, since the school counselor had suspected something years before. At 15, I started recording his outbursts. At first as a form of protection. I thought if something really serious happened, I would have proof. I bought a used phone with money I saved doing assignments for classmates. I kept it hidden under my mattress, charged it in the bathroom at night. The first audio I recorded was a night when he came home drunk and started breaking plates in the kitchen because dinner was cold. I heard the screams, the objects breaking, my mom begging him to calm down. I turned on the recording and put the phone in my pajama pants pocket. When he came up to my room, I was already waiting. I knew I would be next. He came in yelling that I was ungrateful, that I didn't value everything he did for me. You think this roof over your head is free? You think this expensive school you waste is free? You piece of shit. The recording caught everything. The insults, the sound of the belt cutting through the air, my pleas for him to stop, the sobs I tried to hold back, because I knew crying only made him more furious. In the following weeks, I recorded more episodes. I created a pattern. Whenever I heard the front door slamming, or the sound of keys being thrown on the table in anger, or the first bottle being opened, I would start recording. It wasn't just the physical violence, it was the constant humiliation. You're too weak to be my son. I should have left you with your mother when I found out about the pregnancy. Look at you. You don't even look like a man. Are you sure you're not? I collected those audios like weapons I would use one day. I still didn't know exactly how or when, but that was my only form of resistance. By that time, I wasn't sleeping well anymore, had constant nightmares. At school, my performance dropped more and more, which only made the situation at home worse. I started having anxiety attacks, panic attacks in the school bathroom. I lost weight because often I couldn't eat. My stomach was always knotted with fear. My mom noticed. On a rare afternoon when we were alone at home, she came into my room and sat on the edge of the bed. Her eyes were always red, now, deep, dark circles. She looked like she had aged 20 years in just 5. I need to tell you something, Lucas. She told me she was secretly saving money, small amounts from her salary as a teacher. She kept it in an account my dad didn't know about. She was planning our escape. Just 6 more months, son. Hang on just 6 more months. We'll go back to Charleston to stay with your grandmother. He'll never find us there. It was the first time in years I felt hope. A light at the end of the tunnel. But we had to be cautious, she explained. If my dad found out, it would be worse, much worse. Promise me you'll hang on, that you'll be strong just a little longer, I promised. But 2 days later, something happened that changed everything. I came back from school early because I had felt sick during PE class. A teacher brought me home by car. No one was supposed to be at home at that hour. My mom would be at the school where she taught, and my dad at work, but his car was in the garage. I heard voices in their room when I entered. My first reaction was fear. If he was drunk at that hour, it would be even worse. I approached their bedroom door silently. He was on the phone, laughing. A laugh I barely recognized because I rarely heard it. No, don't worry. They don't suspect anything. Claire, she's a complete idiot, believes everything I tell her. The kid is weak, just like his mother. No, everything's under control. When we close this deal, I'll take my cut and disappear. They can go to hell. My heart raced. I didn't completely understand what he was talking about, but I realized there was something even worse happening. Some kind of scam, maybe something illegal at the company, and he was planning to abandon us. I turned on the recording on my hidden phone. I kept listening. Old man Jacobs doesn't suspect anything. Yes, all the documents are ready. Just need his signature. 2, 3 months, tops. 1.5 million divided between the four of us. Cancun. We're going to live like kings. I silently retreated, left the house, and stayed at the neighborhood park until normal school return time. That recording changed everything for me. It wasn't just about the violence now. It was about something much bigger. In the following weeks, I recorded more conversations. I gradually discovered that my dad and 3 colleagues from the company were planning some kind of fraud, something related to contracts with suppliers, overcharging shell companies. I didn't understand all the details, but I knew it was serious and knew it would be my way out of that hell. Meanwhile, the abuse continued. In fact, it got worse. He was more stressed, more violent. One night, after beating me for finding a report card with low grades in my backpack, he said something he had never said before. If I wanted, I could end you, make you disappear. Nobody would miss you, not even your mother. It wasn't the physical pain that marked me that day. It was his cold look, as if I were nothing, as if he could really kill me without feeling absolutely anything. At that moment, I knew I had to act. We couldn't wait the 6 months my mom was planning. It was a matter of survival. Now, the breaking point happened on a Tuesday. My mom had gone to visit my grandmother in Charleston, who was sick. She hesitated a lot about leaving me alone with him, but I insisted I would be fine. I already had a plan. During her absence, my dad got worse, as if her presence, even as weak and submissive as she was still some kind of break. That night, he came home drunk, as always, threw the keys on the table, shouted my name. "Lucas, where's dinner?" I had prepared something simple, as I had since my mom traveled, but nothing satisfied him. He complained that the food was cold, that it had no salt, that I was as useless as my mother. I kept calm. The phone was in my pocket, recording everything as always, but that night I provoked him. For the first time, I didn't stay quiet, accepting everything. "Why don't you order food then? With the money you're stealing from the company, you should be able to order from the best restaurant in town." He froze. The fork he was holding fell on the plate. His eyes narrowed. "What did you just say?" I swallowed hard. I was scared, but I couldn't back down now. "I heard your conversations. I know about the scam you're planning with your little friends at work, the money you're going to steal." He got up so fast the chair fell backward. He came at me. I managed to dodge and ran to the living room. He was too drunk to be quick. "You little piece of shit. You don't know anything." "I know enough. I know about the fake contracts, the shell companies, the money you're going to embezzle. I know you're planning to abandon us afterward." He stopped, studying me. His breathing was heavy, his face red with anger and alcohol. "What do you want? Money? Is that it? I'll give you $1,000 right now to keep your mouth shut." It was my turn to laugh. A cold laugh that didn't seem like mine. "I don't want your money. I want you to leave. To leave me and Mom in peace forever." He started advancing again, knocking over a coffee table, breaking a picture frame. "You won't tell anyone. Nobody would believe you." I took the phone from my pocket. "I have everything recorded. Your conversations, your plans, and more. I've recorded every time you hit me in the last 2 years, every threat, every insult." For the first time in my life, I saw fear in his eyes, but it didn't last long. Soon the fury returned. "Give me that phone now." I put the device back in my pocket. "I've already sent copies of everything to the cloud, to emails you don't have access to. If anything happens to me, everything goes to the police, to the company, to everyone." It was a lie. I hadn't sent anything yet, but he didn't know that. We were at an impasse for a few seconds. He seemed to be calculating his options. Then his face changed. The cynical smile I hated so much returned. "You're smart, kid. Smarter than I thought. Maybe you are my son after all. He adjusted his shirt, ran his hand through his hair. Let's make a deal. What exactly do you want? I already said I want you to leave. Leave us alone. And lose everything I've built. My career, my life. Your career is going to end anyway when they discover the fraud. He came closer. Now, calmer. Calculating. Look, let's be rational. We're men. We can talk. You're 16 already, not a child anymore. I can include you in the deal, give you a cut. You and your mother will never have to worry about money again. I shook my head. I don't want your dirty money. I just want you to disappear. That's not going to happen. His voice hardened. And if you open your mouth, if you tell anyone about anything, I'll deny everything. I'll say you made it up because you're a troubled teenager. I have friends in the police and the courthouse. Who do you think they'll believe, me or you? He was right. It was his word against mine. Even with the recordings, he had influence. He had money for good lawyers. He had the image of an exemplary father he had cultivated for years. But I had something he didn't expect. Determination. If you're not gone by tomorrow, I'll take everything to Mr. Jacobs. I saw his face go pale. Jacobs was the company president, his direct boss, the person he was planning to defraud. You wouldn't do that. Try me. He advanced once more, now completely out of control. I'll kill you, you son of a... I ran to my room and locked the door. He pounded, screamed, threatened. At some point, after almost breaking down the door, he stopped. I heard his footsteps moving away, then the sound of the front door slamming, the car taking off with force. I spent the night awake with a chair propped against the door. By morning, he hadn't returned. I stayed home without going to school. I called my mom, but didn't tell her anything. I didn't want to frighten her while she was away. In the afternoon, he returned sober. Too calm. Lucas, we need to talk. I kept my distance. I have nothing to talk about with you. I've thought a lot. You're right. I've been a terrible father. I drank too much. Lost control many times. I have no excuses for what I did to you and your mother, but I can change. I'll seek help, do therapy, stop drinking. I didn't believe a word. It was manipulation, as always. And about what you heard, about work, it was just talk. We're not going to do anything illegal. We were just speculating. I don't believe you. He sighed as if he were genuinely sorry. He was a good actor, I had to admit. What can I do to make you believe me, for us to start over? Nothing. I want you to leave. This is my house, too. I can't just go. Then tomorrow I'll go to Mr. Jacobs' office. His face hardened again. You don't understand what you're doing. You'll destroy this family. You already destroyed it. He left, slamming the door. He didn't come back that night or the next. I called my mom, said everything was fine, that Dad had traveled for work. I didn't want to worry her yet. On the third day, I made the decision. I organized all the recordings, the most impactful ones about the abuse, the clearest ones about the fraud, copied them to a flash drive. I wore my best clothes, jeans with no tears, polo shirt, clean sneakers. I took a bus to the business center where my dad worked. A 15-story building with a mirrored glass facade, a place I had only been to twice before for year-end parties. At the reception, I said I was Robert Miller's son and needed to urgently speak to Mr. Jacobs for family reasons. The receptionist hesitated, but ended up calling the president's secretary. After a few minutes of waiting, I received authorization to go up. Mr. Jacobs' office was on the top floor, spacious with a view of the entire city. He received me with a cordial smile, thinking I was there for some family emergency. Lucas, what a surprise. Your father isn't in the office today. He's in an external meeting. Did something happen? I took a deep breath. It was now or never. Mr. Jacobs, I need to show you something. It's important. It's about my dad. I showed him the recordings. First, some about the abuse. Just enough for him to understand what kind of man my father really was. He listened in silence, his face becoming increasingly serious. My God, I had no idea. Then, I showed him the recordings about the fraud, the details of the scheme, the names of the others involved, the amounts, the complete plan. Mr. Jacobs's face changed. Shock, then anger. He called security, the legal department. In minutes, the office was full of executives in suits, all looking at me with a mixture of pity and disbelief. "Where is your father now, Lucas?" asked Mr. Jacobs. "I don't know. He hasn't slept at home for 3 days." Jacobs asked me to repeat everything to the company lawyer. I told about the scheme, about the other people involved, 3 managers from different departments. I showed all the evidence I had. "And why are you doing this?" asked the lawyer, studying me with suspicion. I looked him straight in the eyes. "Because he destroyed our family. Because he threatened my life. Because I couldn't take living in fear anymore." Mr. Jacobs put his hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing, kid. We'll solve this, both the professional part and the other part." They called my dad on his cell phone. Said they needed him urgently at the company, that there was a problem with one of the contracts only he could solve. He said he would arrive in an hour. I waited in a smaller meeting room with a glass of water and a sandwich the secretary brought me. I was trembling inside, but I was determined. There was no turning back. When my dad arrived, he went straight to the president's office. I could hear the shouting even through the walls, his indignant voice, then furious. Then, silence. I imagine that's when they showed him the recordings. The door suddenly opened. He came out like a hurricane, his face contorted with hatred. He saw I was there and came in my direction. 2 security guards held him back before he could reach me. You betrayed me. You ungrateful son of a..." That's when I heard that animal scream I mentioned at the beginning, the howl of a man who lost everything at once. He struggled while the security guards dragged him to the elevator. "You'll pay for this, kid. This isn't over." Mr. Jacobs came out of the room accompanied by the lawyer and head of security. "We're going to call the police both for the scheme and for the rest. You'll need to give a statement, Lucas. Are you prepared for that?" I nodded. I was. I had mentally rehearsed that moment for months, years maybe. "I need to call my mom first." He lent me his phone. I called my mom in Charleston. When I told her what I had done, there was a long silence on the other end. "Lucas, what have you done?" Her voice was heavy with fear. "I ended him, Mom. He'll never hurt us again." "But how? Why, my God, do you have any idea what this means?" "It means we're free." "It's not that simple, son." She started crying. "I'm coming back today. Wait for me at home. Don't do anything else." But I couldn't wait at home. I was taken to the police station to give a statement. I showed the recordings again, now to police officers. I showed the old marks on my body. I told everything from the beginning. My dad was there too, in another room. That's when I found out he had been fired on the spot, that the company was pressing criminal charges against him and the others involved in the scheme. Fraud, embezzlement, criminal conspiracy. I spent hours at the police station. A social worker was called, a psychologist. I had to repeat my story several times to different people. I was exhausted, but I also felt something strange, a weight lifting from my shoulders for the first time in years. When they finally released me, it was already night. The social worker said she would take me home, that my mom should already be arriving from Charleston. On the way, my cell phone rang, an unknown number. I answered. It was my dad. "You destroyed everything, you little shit. Everything I built in 15 years. You know what's going to happen now? I'm going to lose my job, my house, my freedom. And when I get out of jail, because one day I will get out, the first thing I'm going to do is finish what I started with you." I hung up trembling. The social worker noticed, asked what happened. I didn't tell her. I was so scared I couldn't speak. We arrived at home. My mom hadn't arrived yet. The social worker said she would wait with me, but she had to attend an emergency elsewhere. She promised to return in an hour and told me to lock the door well. Alone, the fear grew. What if he came after me before being arrested? I checked all the windows, all the doors. I locked myself in my room with a kitchen knife. Every noise on the street made me jump. Then I heard the sound of a car parking abruptly, doors slamming, heavy footsteps coming up the building stairs, a key turning in the door. It had to be him. I pushed the dresser against the bedroom door. I called the police, whispering that my dad was trying to get in, that he had threatened to kill me. "I know you're in there, Lucas." His voice from the other side of the door, thicker, slurred, drunk again. I started to hear blows on the door. He was trying to break it down. The thin wood wouldn't hold for long. "When I get you," more blows. That's when I did something desperate. I opened the window of my room. We were on the 3rd floor. There was a small balcony, those merely decorative ones. You could barely stand on it. The door started to give way. The dresser was moving with the blows. He would get in within seconds. I went out to the balcony, looked down. It was too high to jump without seriously injuring myself, but there was a terrace of the downstairs apartment maybe 10 feet below. If I could reach it. The bedroom door opened forcefully. The dresser toppled. He came in, his face contorted, his eyes bloodshot. In his hand, something shiny, a broken piece of glass, probably from a bottle. "Game's over, kid." I climbed onto the balcony railing. He widened his eyes. "What are you going to do? Jump? Don't be stupid." My heart was beating so hard I thought it would explode. Fear paralyzed me, but what was about to happen inside that room terrified me even more. I closed my eyes and jumped. I don't really remember the fall, just the pain on impact. I didn't land on the terrace of the neighbor as planned. My ankle twisted in an impossible way. I heard the snap before I felt the pain. I screamed. The neighbor heard, came out to see what it was. An older man, retired, who always waved to me when we crossed in the elevator. I looked up. My dad was on my balcony, looking at me. For a moment, I thought he would jump after me, but then we heard sirens, the police arriving. He disappeared inside. Minutes later, we heard commotion in the building. The police going up, breaking down the apartment door. Shouts, struggle. My dad being taken away, handcuffed, shouting threats for anyone who wanted to hear. An ambulance took me to the hospital. Broken ankle, some cuts and scrapes, nothing serious considering the height of the fall. The doctors said I was lucky. My mom arrived at the hospital hours later, coming straight from the airport. Her eyes were swollen from crying so much. She hugged me, like she hadn't done in years, strongly, with real presence. My son, what have we done to you?" I realized she blamed herself for not protecting me better, for not leaving that house sooner. I wanted to tell her it wasn't her fault, that she was a victim too, but the words wouldn't come out. I just cried in her arms, like the child I couldn't be for so long. In the following days, everything was a blur. My dad was placed in preventive detention, both for the fraud scheme and for the attempted assault. I found out he had come back to kill me. The police found not only the piece of glass, but a hunting knife in his car. The company pressed charges. My mom filed for divorce and a restraining order. We had to give more statements, talk to more social workers, more psychologists. And then came the consequences I didn't foresee. The story leaked to the press. Executive exposed by own son. Teenager reports $1 million fraud scheme and years of domestic abuse. My blurred photo in the newspapers, reporters at our doorstep. People at school found out. Some looked at me like a hero, others like a freak. The whispers in the hallways, the looks of pity. Suddenly, I was the boy from the Miller case. That's when I started to crumble. Nightmares every night, panic attacks. I couldn't stay home alone. I was afraid to sleep, afraid to wake up. I started cutting my arms with razor blades hidden in the bathroom. The physical pain seemed to relieve a bit the emotional pain consuming me. My mom found the cuts one day. The despair in her eyes was too much for me. I promised I wouldn't do it again, but the same night I cut deeper. The blood wouldn't stop flowing. I got dizzy, fell in the bathroom. She found me unconscious. Hospital again. This time psychiatric ward. Suicidal tendencies, they said. I needed constant supervision. I stayed hospitalized for 2 weeks. Then I was transferred to a specialized clinic for traumatized adolescents. The rehabilitation center was located in a small town in the countryside, away from Chicago, away from everything that reminded me of him. I spent 6 months there: individual therapy, group therapy, medication, physical activities, private tutoring so I wouldn't lose the school year. It was there that I slowly started to rebuild myself, to understand that what had happened wasn't my fault, that I had done what I needed to survive, that I had saved not just myself and my mom, but perhaps prevented him from destroying many other lives with his actions. My dad was convicted of corporate fraud, criminal conspiracy, and domestic violence. He got 12 years in prison. With sentence progression, he'll be eligible for semi-open regime in 4 years. This information still haunts me. The idea that one day he'll be free again, but I've learned not to live in fear of the future, to focus on the now, on my recovery, on rebuilding the relationship with my mom, who was also in therapy. When I left the center 2 months ago, we were different people, stronger, more honest with each other, beginning to relearn how to live without fear. We moved back to Charleston, as her original plan. We're living with my grandmother in a simple house, but full of light. I started at a new school. Nobody knows my story here. I can just be Lucas, the new student, not the boy from the Miller case. My mom is smiling again. So am I, sometimes. We still have a long way ahead, but for the first time in years, that path doesn't seem impossible to travel. The time I spent at the rehabilitation center was the most difficult, and at the same time, the most transformative period of my life. At first, I didn't talk to anyone. I spent days curled up in my bed, having nightmares even while awake. The therapists were patient, didn't force me to speak until I was ready. There were other teenagers there with stories similar to mine: abuse, violence, deep trauma. Gradually, in group sessions, I began to open up, to listen, to realize I wasn't alone. My therapist, Dr. Melissa, helped me understand that what I did wasn't betrayal, as my father shouted that day. It was self-preservation. It was justice. "You didn't destroy your father, Lucas," she would say. "He destroyed himself with his own choices. You just refused to be destroyed along with him." During those months, I received letters from my mom. She couldn't visit frequently because of the distance, but she wrote every week. She told me how she was reorganizing our life, how she had gotten a new job in Charleston, how my grandmother's house was waiting for us. In one of the letters, she wrote something I'll never forget. "You saved us both, son. I should have been strong enough to do this, but I wasn't. You were brave when I couldn't be. I will never fail you like that again." At the center, I learned techniques to deal with panic attacks, to calm my mind when memories came as flashbacks, to identify triggers that led me to self-destructive thoughts. The scar on my left wrist, from the deepest cut I made that night, is still there. Sometimes I look at it and feel ashamed. Other times I see it as a reminder of where I've been and how I managed to get out. I finished the school year with private tutoring at the center. Not the best grades of my life, but enough not to lose the year. Small victories. When I finally received clearance to return to the outside world, I was nervous, scared. The center had become a safe place with predictable rules and routines. Out there, everything seemed too big, too loud. My mom picked me up. We made the plane trip to Charleston in silence, our hands intertwined throughout the flight. She was different too, thinner, but somehow stronger. Her eyes no longer had that empty, defeated look. My grandmother's house was exactly as I remembered from my childhood summer vacations: small, cozy, with plants everywhere, and the smell of fresh coffee in the morning. My grandmother, already in her 70s, hugged me for so long when I arrived, I thought she would never let go. "My boy," she kept repeating. "My boy is home." The first weeks were about adaptation. I continued with therapy, now with a new professional in Charleston. I began to explore the city, to rediscover places I used to visit in my childhood. The beach, a 15-minute bus ride away, became my refuge. I went there almost every day after therapy, sat on the sand and watched the sea. The sound of the waves calmed me like no medication could. My mom got a job at a private school as a literature teacher. She earned less than in Chicago, but the cost of living was also lower. And without my father draining money with alcohol and his extravagances, we could live well. The new school started a month ago. On the first day, I was paralyzed at the entrance, unable to cross the gate. The fear of being recognized, of someone knowing my story, of becoming the boy from the Miller case again. My mom noticed, stayed by my side. "One step at a time, son. I'm here." I entered, and to my surprise, it was normal. Just another school day, just another new student. The curious looks were just the usual ones for any newcomer, not the looks of pity or gossip I feared. I made some acquaintances, perhaps they can become friends someday. It's still hard to trust people, it's still hard to let someone get too close. But I'm trying. We receive news about the criminal case from time to time. The lawyer the company assigned to help us keeps in touch. My father tried to reduce his sentence, claiming I had fabricated evidence, but the recordings were proven authentic. He also tried to sue us for parental alienation. How ironic. But the judge summarily rejected it. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing. Not for him. He deserved everything that happened and more. But for me, for us. Exposing everything like that, turning our pain into a public case, was difficult, traumatic in its own way. Maybe we could have just run away, as my mom's original plan. Started over somewhere else, without all the drama, without the newspapers, without me becoming the son who reported his father. But then I remember the other people he would hurt, the co-workers who trusted him, the company that would be defrauded of millions, future employees who would suffer from his abusive behavior as a boss, maybe even another family he would form after abandoning us. No, I don't regret it. I had to grow up too fast, that's true. I had to make choices no teenager should have to make. But if all this served to break the cycle of abuse, to prevent him from continuing to destroy lives, it was worth it. My current therapist says it takes time to heal such deep wounds, that I shouldn't pressure myself to overcome everything quickly, that trauma is stored in the body, not just in the mind, and that recovery isn't linear. I have good days and bad days. Days when I can smile, go out with classmates, help my grandmother in the garden, study for tests like any normal teenager, and days when I can barely get out of bed, when the weight of the past seems to crush me, when the nightmares return, and I feel again like that terrified boy locked in his room while heavy footsteps approach up the stairs. But the good days are becoming more frequent than the bad ones. Slowly, gradually, my mom is healing too. She started painting again, a hobby she had abandoned years ago because my father thought it was a waste of time. She's taking dance classes twice a week, started wearing bright colors in her clothes again, laughing more easily. One night, sitting on my grandmother's porch, she asked me, "Do you think one day we'll be able to forget all this?" I thought for a moment before answering. I think we won't forget, nor should we, but maybe one day the memory won't hurt so much. She nodded, taking my hand. "You're so much stronger than I ever was, you know." I disagree. Surviving all those years took strength too. It's just that now we're using our strength in a different way. I don't know what the future holds for us. I know I still have a long way to go, that I'll probably need therapy for many years, that I might always have certain triggers, certain fears. I also know that in a few years my father could be in semi-open regime and eventually free. I try not to think about that. We have restraining orders. He can't come near us, but the fear is still there, buried deep. For now, I'm focused on finishing high school, on rebuilding my life one day at a time, on rediscovering who I am without the constant weight of fear, on learning to trust people again, and yes, on days like today, on sharing my story. Not for fame or attention, but because I know there are other Lucases out there. Other teenagers living in houses that seem perfect from the outside, but are battlefields inside. Other sons and daughters who think they have no way out, that nobody will believe them, that they're alone against monsters everyone else sees as exemplary people. If you've made it this far and understood what I went through, if you really care about my story, please like this video, subscribe to Traumatic Accounts, hit the notification bell, and tell me what time it is where you're watching this. It might seem silly, but knowing there's someone on the other side listening to me, perhaps understanding or even identifying with this, means more than I can explain. And if you're like I was, trapped in a situation that seems to have no way out, Know that there is hope, that there are people who will believe you, that you deserve to be protected, to be loved, to be respected. Truth has a price. Exposing monsters, even those who live in our own home, isn't easy. But silence exacts an even higher price. I almost paid with my life. Don't let yourself get that far. Today I'm sitting in this empty park because I chose to live. I chose truth. I chose a future, even if uncertain, even if sometimes scary. And for the first time in many years, when I look at that future, I can see more than just survival. I can see possibilities. And that, after everything, might be the greatest victory.